Hello everyone. In this presentation, which is the fourth in the series of presentations on Article 21, some more instances of liberal interpretation of Article 21, expanding its scope and ambit to influence other aspects of human life like education and privacy, will be dealt with. So far as the right to education is concerned, the framers of the Constitution were aware that 70% of the population of this country are illiterate and that unless the citizens develop their personality through education, individual dignity cannot be assured. Hence, they placed free and compulsory education in Directive Principles. Article 45 of the Directive Principles required the state to take steps within 10 years of the commencement of the Constitution to provide for free and compulsory education for all children until they complete the age of 14 years. The Union as well as the state governments, due to various reasons, could not achieve this objective of universal primary education even after a lapse of nearly 4 decades. The Supreme Court again became instrumental in declaring right to education as a fundamental right by reading Article 21 with the directive principles relating to compulsory education under Articles 39, 41, 45 and 46 cumulatively as a constituent of right to life under Article 21. Mohini Jain versus State of Karnataka was a case which arose from a writ petition filed under Article 32 of the Constitution by Ms. Mohini Jain. She challenged the notification of the Karnataka government, which permitted the private medical colleges in the state of Karnataka to charge exorbitant tuition fees, that is capitation fees, from the students other than those admitted to government seats. The Supreme Court observed that fundamental rights, including freedom of speech and expression and other freedoms guaranteed under Article 19, cannot be fully appreciated and enjoyed without making right to education a reality. The court further held that life means life with dignity, and right to life is a compendious expression for all those rights which are basic to the dignified enjoyment of life, thereby implying that the right to education is a fundamental right under Article 21. Subsequently, in Unnikrishnan versus State of Andhra Pradesh, reiterating the importance of education, the Supreme Court held that a true democracy is one where education is universal, where people understand what is good for them and the nation and know how to govern themselves. The three articles 45, 46 and 41 are designed to achieve the said goal among others. It is in the light of these articles the content and parameters of the right to education have to be determined. However, the court held that this right was restricted to providing free and compulsory education until the completion of the age of 14 years. Beyond that stage, the state's obligation is subject to the limits of the economic capacity and development of the state. In State of Himachal Pradesh versus Himachal Pradesh State Recognized and Aided Schools Managing Committee, holding that the right to education is a fundamental right guaranteed under Parts 3 and 4 of the Constitution, the Supreme Court held that the state is under a constitutional obligation to provide free education to children till they complete 14 years of age. In M.C. Mehta versus State of Tamil Nadu, the Supreme Court took up the issue of child labor in hazardous fields when an accident in a cracker factory in Sivakasi was brought to its notice. The court identified poverty as the root cause of child labor and held that this could be taken care of to some extent by insisting on compulsory education. The court held that if at all there is a blueprint for tackling the problem of child labor, it is education. In 2002, in order to have greater emphasis to the right to education, the 86th Amendment to the Constitution of India was made, introducing Article 21A, declaring the right to free and compulsory education of children between 6 to 14 years of age as a fundamental right. Correspondingly, Article 45 was amended, making it an obligation on the part of the state to provide early childhood care and education for all children until they complete the age of 6 years. The amendment in Article 51A of the Constitution Inserting clause K has also been made, making it obligatory on the part of parents and guardians to provide opportunities for education of their children between 6 to 14 years of age. Thus, Article 21A, read with Article 51A(k), distributes an obligation between the state and the parents. The state is concerned with free education, parents with compulsory. Notwithstanding parental duty, the state also has a role to play in ensuring that compulsory education is achievable. The 86th Amendment to the Constitution was brought into effect only in 2010. In 2009, the Right to Free and Compulsory Education Act was enacted by the Parliament, which also came into force in 2010. Even after the Fundamental Right to Education and the Right to Free and Compulsory Education Act 2010 came into force, the Supreme Court has been discharging its constitutional responsibility of interpreting the right to education in a child-friendly manner to make universal elementary education a reality. The causes and concerns regarding implementation of free and compulsory education to children and the facilities that have to be extended to achieve this objective have been discussed elaborately by the Supreme Court in Ashok Kumar Thakur versus Union of India. The court observed that when there are no school buildings, teachers, books and proper facilities, the schooling might be free, but it is not an education in any proper sense, and hence adequate number of schools must be established with proper infrastructure without further delay. The court further observed that in order to achieve the constitutional goal of free and compulsory education, the state must carve out innovative policies to ensure that parents send their children to school. In addition to free education and financial assistance, children should be given books, uniforms, and any other necessary benefits so that the object of Article 21A is achieved, and the state cannot avoid its constitutional obligation on the ground of financial liabilities. In Environmental and Consumer Protection Foundation versus Delhi Administration, the Supreme Court held that it is the obligation and duty of the states and union territories to provide free and compulsory elementary education, which includes obligation to provide a number of government primary schools, facilities for drinking water, separate toilet facilities for boys and girls, electricity facilities, playgrounds, proper school buildings, provision of midday meal facility, strength and requirement of teachers and instructors, and facilities for physically challenged children. In Pramati Educational and Cultural Trust versus Union of India, a 5-judge bench of the Supreme Court held that the state is obliged under Article 21A to provide free and compulsory education, and it is empowered to legislate for determining the manner in which it seeks to discharge its obligation. But this obligation is on the state as defined in Article 12, which does not cover private unaided schools, though they are recognized, affiliated, or subject to the regulatory control of the state, and therefore this obligation cannot be transferred by the state to private unaided schools, which are non-state actors. To the list of rights read as implied in Article 21, the latest addition has been the right to privacy. In MP Sharma versus Satish Chandra, the Supreme Court for the first time touched upon the right to privacy. The challenge was that the searches conducted on the charge of embezzlement of funds by the petitioner's company violated the fundamental rights of the petitioners under Article 19(1)(f) and Article 23 of the Constitution. The Supreme Court rejected the former challenge. The question which the court addressed was whether there was a contravention of Article 23. Article 23 mandates that no person accused of an offence shall be compelled to be a witness against himself, holding that the guarantee against self-incrimination under Clause 3 of Article 20 is not offended by a search and seizure. The court observed that a power of search and seizure is in any system of jurisprudence an overriding power of the state for the protection of social security, and that power is necessarily regulated by law. The court held that when the constitution makers have thought fit not to subject such regulation to constitutional limitations by recognizing a fundamental right to privacy, there is no justification to import it into a totally different fundamental right by some process of strained construction. Again, in Kharak Singh versus State of UP, the Supreme Court held that the freedom guaranteed by Article 19(1)(d) is not infringed by a watch being kept over the movements of the suspect. The right to privacy is not a guaranteed right under our Constitution, and therefore the attempt to ascertain the movements of an individual, which is merely a manner in which privacy is invaded, is not an infringement of a fundamental right guaranteed by Part 3. However, Justice Subbarao in his dissent opined that the right to privacy is an essential ingredient of personal liberty, though our Constitution does not expressly declare the same as a fundamental right. The right to personal liberty is a right of an individual to be free from restrictions or encroachments on his person, whether those restrictions are directly imposed or indirectly brought about by calculated measures. The right to privacy was once again an issue before the Supreme Court in Gobind versus State of MP. The court considered a challenge to the validity of regulations 855 and 856 of state police regulations, under which a history sheet was opened against the petitioner who had been placed under surveillance. The court held that the right to privacy will necessarily have to go through a process of case-by-case development. It was further held that even assuming that the right to personal liberty, the right to move freely throughout the territory of India, and the freedom of speech create an independent right of privacy as an emanation from them, which can be characterized as a fundamental right, the right is not absolute. In R. Rajgopal versus State of Tamil Nadu, the Supreme Court referred to Kharak Singh and Gobind and considered a large number of American and English cases and finally concluded that the right to privacy is implicit in the right to life and liberty guaranteed to the citizens of this country by Article 21. It is the right to be let alone. A citizen has a right to safeguard the privacy of his own, his family, marriage, procreation, motherhood, childbearing, and education, among other matters. In People's Union for Civil Liberties versus Union of India, the petitioner challenged the constitutional validity of Section 5(2) of the Indian Telegraph Act 1885 and urged in the alternative for adopting procedural safeguards to curb arbitrary acts of telephone tapping. The Supreme Court held that telephone conversation is an important facet of a man's private life, and the right to privacy would certainly include telephone conversation in the privacy of one's home or office. Telephone tapping would thus violate Article 21 of the Constitution unless it is permitted under the procedure established by law. In Mr. X versus Hospital Z, the Supreme Court opined that the right to healthy life is inherent in Article 21 and this would justify breach of confidentiality or right to privacy of another person. Doctor or institution responsible for the disclosure would be acting in public interest in protection of rights and freedoms of others. The court held that having regard to the fact that the appellant X was found to be HIV positive, its disclosure by Hospital Z would not be violative of either the rule of confidentiality or the appellant's right of privacy, as Ms. Y, with whom the appellant was likely to be married, was saved in time by such disclosure, or else she too would have been infected with the dreadful disease if the marriage had taken place and consummated. Disclosure for protecting an identifiable person against health risk is an exception to the duty to maintain secrecy. Right to privacy is gradually developed under Article 21 by the Supreme Court and is not an absolute right. In case of conflict between fundamental rights of two parties, the court has to balance the competing rights. In Sharda versus Dharmapal, the appellant and the respondent were spouses, and the respondent sued for divorce and filed an application for conducting a medical examination of the appellant, which was opposed. The trial court allowed the application. The High Court dismissed the challenge in a civil revision, and hence the appellant moved the Supreme Court. The appellant argued that compelling her to undergo a medical examination violated her personal liberty under Article 21, and that in the absence of legal provision to that effect, the matrimonial court had no jurisdiction to compel a party to undergo a medical examination. The Supreme Court held that divorce on the grounds of impotency, schizophrenia, etc., which cannot be proved without medical examination, cannot be avoided under the pretext of violation of the right to privacy. In case Puttaswamy versus Union of India, a bench of 3 judges of the Supreme Court considered the constitutional challenge to the Aadhaar card scheme of the Union government, noted in its order dated 11/8/2015 that the norms for and compilation of demographic biometric data by the government violates the right to privacy. The Attorney General of India urged that the existence of a fundamental right to privacy is in doubt in view of 2 decisions. The first, MP Sharma, rendered by a bench of 8 judges, and the second, Karak Singh, rendered by a bench of 6 judges. These decisions, according to Attorney General, contained observations that Indian Constitution did not specifically protect the right to privacy. However, the petitioners contended that MP Sharma and Karak Singh were founded on the principles laid down in A.K. Gopalan, according to which each provision in Part 3 of the Constitution should be construed as a distinct provision, and this has been held to be not good law in R.C. Cooper, and therefore the basis of decisions in MP Sharma and Karak Singh is not valid. It was also urged that the minority judgment of Justice Subbarao in Karak Singh was specifically approved and the decision of the majority was overruled. While addressing these issues, the 3-judge bench of the Supreme Court took note of several decisions of the Supreme Court in which the right to privacy has been held to be a constitutionally protected fundamental right, which were rendered by the benches of a strength smaller than those in MP Sharma and Karak Singh. Having regard to the far-reaching questions of importance involving interpretation of the Constitution, the court felt that institutional integrity and judicial discipline required a reference to a larger bench. A Constitution bench presided over by Chief Justice thought it fit that the issue be resolved by a bench of 9 judges. 9 judges of the Supreme Court assembled to determine whether privacy is a constitutionally protected value. In order to determine this question, it would be required to decide whether the decisions in MP Sharma versus Satish Chandra by an 8-judge Constitution bench, and also in Karak Singh versus State of UP by a 6-judge Constitution bench, that there is no such fundamental right, is the correct expression of the constitutional position. The court held that the decisions in MP Sharma case and Karak Singh case adopted a doctrinal position on the relationship between Articles 19 and 21 based on the view of majority in Gopalan's case. This view stood annulled particularly by the judgment in R.C. Cooper case and the subsequent statement of doctrine in Maneka Gandhi's case. The decision in Maneka Gandhi case expressly recognized that it is the dissenting judgment of Justice Subbarao in Karak Singh case which represented the exposition of the correct constitutional principle. The court held that the submission that recognizing the right to privacy is an exercise which would require a constitutional amendment and cannot be a matter of judicial interpretation is not an acceptable doctrinal position. This is because such an argument is based on an erroneous assumption that the right to privacy is independent of the liberties guaranteed by Part 3 of the Constitution. The court further held that privacy is a constitutional protected right which emerges primarily from the guarantee of life and personal liberty in Article 21 of the Constitution, and elements of privacy also arise in various contexts from the other facets of freedom and dignity recognized and guaranteed by the fundamental rights contained in Part 3. The court further declared that privacy includes at its core the preservation of personal intimacies, the sanctity of family life, marriage, procreation, the home, and sexual orientation. Privacy also connotes a right to be left alone. It safeguards individual autonomy and recognizes the ability of the individual to control vital aspects of his or her life. Personal choices governing a way of life are intrinsic to privacy. Privacy protects heterogeneity and recognizes the plurality and diversity of our culture. While the legitimate expectation of privacy may vary from the intimate zone to the private zone and from the private to the public arenas, it is important to highlight that privacy is not lost or surrendered merely because the individual is in a public place. Privacy attaches to the person since it is an essential facet of the dignity of the human being. The court also held that right to privacy is not an absolute right, and a law which encroaches upon privacy has to withstand the touchstone of permissible restrictions on fundamental rights. In the context of Article 21, an invasion of privacy must be justified on the basis of a law which stipulates a procedure which is fair, just, and reasonable. Thus, the Supreme Court, by giving an expansive interpretation to Article 21, by reading the directive principles and the international instruments, declared that the right to education and the right to privacy are constituents of right to life and personal liberty under Article 21 of the Constitution. The last part of this series of presentations on Article 21 would deal with the manner in which the Supreme Court used Article 21 for the improvement of the environment, thereby protecting life, environment, and air, water, and soil from pollution. Thank you.